Hello, my dear students. Let's discuss today. We are going to discuss a very easy and interesting part in Unit 1, Lesson number 9, which is the effect of water pressure on organism. Let's start our session for today. Now we are going to talk about the water pressure. The water pressure, it's the pressure exerted by a water at any point, of course, below the water surface. So let's repeat again. The water pressure, it's the pressure exerted by a water at any point below the water surface. Let me ask you a question. This pressure, why the pressure increase as the depth from the surface of the water increase means. Now, as you can see in this photo, why the pressure increase as the depth increase? Why? Due to increase in the weight of water acting on a unit area. So, as the what? As the depth increase, the pressure, what? The pressure also increase. Excellent. So again, who can define for me the water pressure? Yes, it's the pressure exerted by a water at any point below its surface. The pressure increase as the depth increase. Why? Due to increase of the weight of water acting on a unit area. Okay. What will happen to the pressure as the density increase? Let's discuss. The pressure inside the water increases also with the increase in the water density. Therefore, the water pressure at a certain depth in seawater will be greater than its pressure at the same depth in the fresh water. Again, the pressure also increase when the density increase. So, if you have fresh water and salty water, salt water has great density than the fresh water. So, he is telling the water pressure at a certain depth in seawater will be greater than its pressure at the same depth in the fresh water. Now we are going to discuss what is the effect of pressure on the biological adaptation of marine organisms. The first and the most famous adaptation is the air bladder or the what? Or the swim bladder. As you can see in this photo, you can see the structure of the fish and the anatomy, and you can see the swim bladder or the air bladder. It's colored by the color white. This swim bladder or air bladder is an adaptation for the fish. Now, let's discuss the adaptation. The adaptation of marine organisms. First of all, the surface organism means the organism that live at the surface of the water. Let's discuss. The surface organism are organisms that live near the water surface. Near the water surface, they face a relatively low water pressure because, of course, they are near to the surface of the water. So they face a relatively low water pressure, and therefore their physical structure is less strong compared to the organism live in the depth, means that their structure is less strong than the organism living at the depths because they are surface organism. They are living near the water surface where the pressure is low. As you can see the first one, they are telling from 0 to 200 meter. They are very near to the water surface where the pressure is low. Then the organism at intermediate depth. The intermediate depth means from 200 meter to 1000 meter. They are living at this area, as you can see the mid-water zone. As you can see the picture, from 200 meter to 1000 meter. The living organism living at this depth are more specialized to deal with the increase in pressure. For example, tell me example for this organism. They have what different in their structure? They have a swim bladder which is filled with gases that help them to control their buoyancy, as you can see in this picture. So this organism living at the intermediate depth They have what? Swim bladder to help them. Why? What is the function of swim bladder? To help them to control their buoyancy and balance and balance in water, or to move between different depths during their migration between sea and river, such as salmon fish. You can remember that salmon fish can migrate from the fresh water to salty water. Okay, then let's repeat again. Now, the organism living near at the surface, the water pressure is low, so their structure is less strong compared to the other organism living at other depth. But the organism at intermediate depth, means from 200 to 1000, no, this organism are more specialized. Why? To deal with increasing pressure. As what? Give us example. For example, some fish, they have swim bladder, as you can see in the photo. Swim bladder, color by the color white, the swim bladder, which is filled with gases that help them to control their buoyancy and balance in water, or to move between different depths during their migration between seas and river, such as salmon fish. Okay, let's come. Oh, Tab, what about the organisms living at great depth, greater than 2000 meter? The water pressure is very intense, very high pressure. Of course, because we discussed at the beginning, as the depth increase, the pressure increase. So this organism living in this environment characterized by a compact body structures. They have a compact structures, protein components, and internal fluids. They have internal fluid inside their body that withstand the high pressure. So again, the organisms living at depth greater than 2000 meter, where the pressure is very high. These organisms that live in this environment characterized by what? Let's repeat. Number one, compact body structures. Number two, protein components. And number three, internal fluids that withstand the high pressure. Also, some of these organisms, such as ray, as you can see, this is a picture of a ray fish, rays. They do not have gas bladder. Why? They do not have gas bladder to ensure that they do not collapse under such a high pressure. So the ray, as you can see, no gas bladder. Why? Give reason. The ray fish do not have gas bladder to ensure that they do not collapse under such a high pressure. Or they have a bladder. Oh, but this bladder contain liquids instead of gases. This bladder contain what? Liquid instead of gases. And they rely on a large oil-rich liver. Why? They rely on a large oil-rich liver. Why? To increase their buoyancy and control their depth. To increase their what? Their buoyancy and control their depth. Let's repeat again. The organisms at great depth, greater than 2000 meter, where the water pressure is very high, they are characterized by what? Number one, who can repeat? Compact body structure, protein components, internal fluids that withstand the high pressure. Also the ray, some of this organism like the ray fish, they do not have gas bladder. Why? To ensure that they do not collapse under such a very high pressure. Or a bladder, but the bladder contains what? The bladder contains liquid instead of gases. And they rely on a large oil-rich liver to increase their buoyancy and control their depth. So, these are the organisms that live at greater depth, greater than 2000 meter, where the pressure. Now we are going to discuss second, the bony and the cartilaginous skeleton. The bony fish, such as tilapia, Characterized by what? By having a skeleton made up of bones. Of course, it's a bony fish, so the skeleton is made up of what? Of bones. The bones, it provides strong support for the fish body, and stabilize the body under various pressures, such as water movement or water pressure. But what about the cartilaginous fish, such as sharks and rays? They are a group of fish characterized by having a cartilaginous skeleton instead of bony one. So this cartilage is a more flexible and lighter, of course. The cartilage is more flexible and lighter tissue compared to the bone, which give the cartilaginous fish a flexibility that distinguish them from the bony fish. So again, let's repeat. The bony and cartilaginous skeleton, the bony fish, they have what? Skeleton made up of bones. The bones that provide strong support for the fish body, of course. The bone provides strong support for the fish body and stabilize their body under various pressure. What about the cartilaginous fish, such as shark and ray? Of course, they have a cartilaginous skeleton, which is more flexible and lighter compared to the bone that provide them flexibility. So now we discuss what the effect of pressure on the biological adaptation of marine organism. First, we discuss the air bladder or the swim bladder, and we discuss the surface organism living at the surface where the pressure is low, and the organism at the intermediate depth, and the organism at the great depth. Second, we discuss the bony and the cartilaginous skeleton, and we discuss and we compare who can compare between the bony fish and the cartilaginous fish. Let's start. Bony fish, their skeleton are made up of what? Of course, of bones that provide what? Strong support and stabilize the body. While the cartilaginous fish, such as shark and ray, characterized by having what? Cartilaginous skeleton instead of bony one. And the cartilage is more flexible and lighter. Okay, let's now on to see the picture of the ray fish and the bony fish, which is made up of contain bony skeleton, and the shark. Now, who can answer these questions and choose the correct answer? Let's choose the correct answer. At any point inside a liquid is affected by a pressure that equals space of the liquid column above a unit area surrounding this point. Again, I will repeat again. Any point inside a liquid is affected by pressure that equals what of the liquid column above a unit area? Of course, the weight. Excellent. So the answer of question 1, the weight. Question number 2. What is the main function of swim bladder in fish that live at intermediate depth? Now, I want who can tell me what is the function of swim bladder in fish that live at intermediate depth. Number 1, maintaining the temperature of their body. Or number 2, help in digestion. Number 3, control their buoyancy. Or number 4, storage oxygen for breathing. Of course, the swim bladder. When you see swim bladder, it control their what? Their buoyancy. So the answer is C. So again, who can tell me what's the function of swim bladder? The swim bladder control the what? Control their buoyancy. Excellent. Next. Which of the following is correct about the ray fish? The ray fish. Its body contain bony skeleton, or its body contains air bladder, or its body contain light and flexible cartilaginous skeleton, or it mostly exists in the surface layer of ocean water. Again, let's repeat the question again. Which of the following is correct about the ray fish? Its body contains bony skeleton, Its body contains air bladder. Its body contains light and flexible cartilaginous skeleton, or it mostly exists in the surface layer of ocean water. Who can answer? Yes, the answer is C. Its body contains light and flexible cartilaginous skeleton. And here we reach to the end of our session. I hope you understand well, and see you next session inshallah, and thank you for watching.